Hello, everyone. I'm Guru from CloudKnox Security. And for the next few minutes, I will be talking to Jon Roller. He's the CIO of Horsley Bridge Partners, and Joshua Kirkes. He's the Director of Technology at Horsley Bridge Partners. We're going to be talking about cloud infrastructure security. So, John and Joshua, welcome. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Guru.
All right. So this is just a reminder to the audience. After I talk with John and Joshua, we will be having a short Q&A session. So if you are watching us live, feel free to drop a question, and we will be getting to those after the talk. And if you're not listening to this live, or you would like to ask your questions in a more private forum, please email me at guru@cloudnox.io. That's GURU@cloudnox.io. I'll be happy to answer any questions for me, and I will be happy to forward any questions to John and Joshua. So with that, I would like to start this talk. So John and Joshua, I know that you both are responsible for the cloud and cybersecurity strategies at Horsley Bridge Partners. Would you mind spending a minute to introduce yourselves and explain a bit about Horsley Bridge and your respective roles?
Yeah, absolutely, Guru. Thank you. Horsley Bridge, I'm Jon Roller. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Horsley Bridge. Horsley Bridge is a private equity and venture capital fund of funds based in San Francisco. We're also a registered investment advisor with the Security and Exchange Commission. We have approximately 15 billion of assets under management, and we have offices in UK and China as well. I've been with Horsley Bridge almost 22 years, overseeing our data and analytics program for at least the last 10 years and serving as the Chief Information Officer since 2014. When I became CIO, I started a roadmap that was moving Horsley Bridge from fully on-premise infrastructure and systems to a hybrid, mostly cloud infrastructure with a heavy reliance on SaaS. And here at Horsley Bridge, we do all of that with the two people in IT that you see here, Joshua being the brains behind all that.
Yeah, and my name is Joshua Kirkes. I'm the Director of Technology at Horsley Bridge Partners. I joined Horsley Bridge in 2015, as John mentioned, specifically to help implement this new roadmap of moving away from custom applications, a lot of on-premise systems, into the cloud services and SaaS offerings that are direct replacements for most of those products.
Awesome. Thank you both for that answer. So as you guys might know, you have been using CloudKnox Security for the past couple of years now, and I would like to know about all your experiences using it. So would you mind explaining to us what drew you to the platform at first, and what has let you continue using it at such a high level?
Yeah, I think we came upon Cloudnox a couple of years ago through a networking group. A friend of ours had recommended it as a possible solution to one of our problems, and I think specifically to help us assess our cybersecurity posture within both VMware and AWS. And the Cloudnox approach to security at an identity level is not new at all, but the approach to identity and quantifying it as risk, I think, is unique. And that's one way that's not only helped us to assess our implementation of infrastructure at an administrative level. What permissions have we given administrators? Is it over-permissioned? How are we meeting compliance and even vulnerability assessments within our products? All of these different pieces, Cloudnox actually has tools to help us assess that. Additionally, as we've grown over the past several years of using the product, we've also been able to kind of stay up with what's going on at AWS. That's probably one of every customer's biggest challenges who uses AWS, is that AWS has grown tremendously, and their new offerings are often hard to keep track of. And sometimes you'll find that you now have an administrator who's been permissioned for this new offering at AWS that you don't necessarily have in control. Cloudnox has helped us to not only assess those new offerings, figure out what permissions we want to actually grant administrators within those offerings, and then also right-size permissions back down to things that only our administrators actually need to use their job and need to use to get their job done. And it's really important, I think, to constantly mind all of the changes in your infrastructure and see that specifically, assess it as risk, and Cloudnox helps us do that.
Yeah, I think one of the unique things that we have with Cloudnox is our relationship with them as an early customer. We were able to give a lot of feedback along the way and really help develop some of the products and things like that. And that's one of the things I think that's important to us, is having kind of that vendor relationship where you really feel like you're partners together and working towards the same goals. And Cloudnox, I couldn't speak more highly of them, soliciting our feedback and helping us get where we need to be and use their product along that way.
Yeah, awesome, guys. So I just wanted to tag off something that Joshua stated earlier, which is that managing identity is not new, right? It's not something that Cloudnox necessarily invented. It's just something that we have found a different solution towards. So I wanted to ask you guys about how you were managing identity before Cloudnox came into the picture, and now that Cloudnox is in the picture, how has that made things a lot easier for you guys?
I can go first here and expound on it. Yeah, I mean, before we were using NIST framework, which we're still using today, but doing everything manually. We have NIST in a spreadsheet that we're going through and identifying all of our gaps and controls and everything, and constantly monitoring that, and then also doing yearly security audits and constant internal testing, pen testing, different things, using different vendors to make sure that we're kind of covering all our bases there. And Cloudnox has really kind of given us the tool to quantify a lot of those things and be proactive about fixing them. I'll let Joshua kind of expand on some of those pieces.
Yeah, I think I'll hit a couple things. Is that John mentioned the vendor management or vendor relationship specifically. Is that taking our feedback. One of the things that we used right out of the gate with Cloudnox was the CIS controls. So adopting CIS controls against our infrastructure really helped us to kind of address elements of security in a different way, in a very tightly controlled manner. And that is something that was embedded in the product from when we first started using it. One of our big requests was NIST. As John mentioned, we've been trying to align ourselves with the NIST framework, and Cloudnox within the first year had already adopted very similarly approach to applying NIST control within the same infrastructure. Both of these has helped us tremendously in a more automated, visible strategy specifically that's quantifiable against the infrastructure, to know that we're meeting the standards that we say we're meeting. When you're doing it only in an Excel spreadsheet, you have to constantly go back and test your own controls. Cloudnox helps us to actually test that and validate those controls directly in our infrastructure.
I think you guys brought up a couple of really good points. One point was that the continuous monitoring, right? That is not at all possible for a human being to be doing. That is something that Cloudnox does offer and does very well. And also the continuous growth of Cloudnox as a platform. You guys mentioned you started off with CIS controls, then we introduced the NIST as a benchmark soon afterwards. So we keep growing, we keep adding stuff to our palette, and it's great that our customers, as yourselves, you guys are seeing that, and it brings me great joy as an engineer who works on these things on a daily basis. So thank you for that. I would like to ask you one last question, and that is about the control of human and non-human identities in your AWS environment. So there's no denying that there's like this huge gap between used and unused permissions in your cloud environment, and we call this the cloud permissions gap. And this delta is pretty wide across organizations that are using cloud infrastructure today, just because it's impossible for humans to keep track of everything that's going on. So what do you guys see as the biggest risks to enterprises that are not minding this gap? Do you think this is a problem that they should be concerned about going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. I mean, if you're not paying attention, it's just a matter of time. There's the adage, it's not if you'll be breached, it's when. I don't know how much validity I can give to that, but at the same time, I think I can definitely speak to the number of breach reports that I've read about insider threats, about as well as external breach events. Misconfiguration at AWS is not a hard thing to do. AWS can be very, very complicated for those who are not trained in actually working with those products and those offerings. And because of the speed of growth at AWS, the new offerings that come out, keeping up with that, as you mentioned, is a daunting task, to say the least. How many breach reports I've been through that talk about accidental misconfigurations, not just malicious ones, but getting clarity on the level of access that all of your administrators have, your developers have. Also accountability for what actions they're taking. Are they using the permissions that you've given them? Do they need them if they're not using them? All of these questions are actually posited and can be easily answered within the Cloudnox product and quantified as risk. Here's your developer has this permission he never uses. That's risk. And I think that's something, that approach is unique, and it's very, very helpful for us to be able to report on that back to our compliance department. It also helps us to reassess what our posture is, both on-premise with VMware as well as within our cloud infrastructure at AWS. The SolarWinds breach, I think, is profound, not just as a supply chain hack, but also just the intelligence in persistent threat and in lateral movement, right? It gave this capability of moving lateral to these essentially hackers, and Cloudnox helps us to assess whether or not that's a real threat, because if everything is right-sized, moving laterally is much, much more difficult. Additionally, Cloudnox has a newer behavior analytics engine that actually tells us about unusual behavior. So you have an administrator who's now doing these new things. It's easy to now quantify and go back to that, use that as accountability, go back to that person and say, are you really doing these things, or is there a possible compromise in that account? And it's something that you can really rest more assured that your infrastructure is being monitored in real time and not just kind of piecemeal by the administrators who already have the keys. And so I think it's really important that people do pay attention to this right-sizing problem. And I think it's also something that we today use Cloudnox to do this at an administrative and infrastructure level. I would love to be able to apply this to all of my user base.
Yeah, I think Joshua hit on, if you're not paying attention to this gap, I'm not sure what you're doing in IT, but we're a financial services firm, so we're front and center for a lot of these, targeted attacks and things like that. We do all we can to train our employees, and it's just easy for someone to accidentally click on something and somebody's credentials are stolen without them knowing, or they don't report it back to IT to let them know. But with Cloudnox, in a way, we're able to really proactively go in, see those permissions, make sure that we're stopping some of the lateral movement and the escalation of privileges being possible by just shutting off those permissions from different accounts and just not allowing that to happen. And I mentioned that we're a registered investment advisor. This is a major point of contention for financial firms, especially those who registered with the SEC. I mean, the SEC is really harping on cybersecurity right now, and rightfully so. And being able to kind of go in front of the SEC and say we're using a product like Cloudnox really shows that you're very serious about taking control seriously and putting your best foot forward on these fronts. So it really gives us kind of a compliance sense of mind, and really puts us in a good light with those things with our compliance department internally as well.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, I mean, this was awesome to hear about your experiences using Cloudnox, and also talk about why Cloudnox is important for all organizations to really consider as a part of their security palette. So thank you guys so much for that. That was awesome. And I'm done with my portion of the talk, so I will be turning it over to Q&A. I don't see any questions come in just yet, but if you guys do have any questions, we will give you guys a minute or two to ask those. And thank you guys for listening in. This was good.
Thanks for having us.
Say that again, Joshua. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate the chance to just talk about our experience with it.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, just ask away. If you guys are not listening to this live, again, you can email me at guru, that's GURU, @cloudnox.io. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions, and I'll also be more than happy to forward any questions that you do have to John and Joshua. Oh, and we do have a question. So the question was, did you do a risk assessment with Cloudnox? And that is pretty much the question. So, John and Joshua.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's that was one of the first things after implementation, specifically of putting Cloudnox into our environment. Actually, kind of playing with the product, see what visibility do we have, understanding what the application is actually telling us about risk, because I think the foreground of Cloudnox is really around risk specifically. So understanding what those levels mean, actually making changes in our environment, going back and kind of rethinking how we want to do identity management. And then shortly thereafter, I think it was probably in maybe 1 quarter after implementing, we did specifically that risk assessment. Not so much from like a penetration testing, but literally sitting down with our account manager and going through at a very, very detailed level, what is our risk posture? Is this risk we really want to accept? And really understanding at a granular level all of what Cloudnox is seeing and what it's meant to tell us in terms of how we quantify risk, meet compliance, meet our strategy for either CIS or NIST or any other elements that are within the product for reporting.
Yeah, we did do that. And it also allows us to sit with the compliance department and say, these are the gaps that we see. We've remedied X, Y, or Z, or we're accepting this risk, due to, whatever that reason might be. But yeah, Cloudnox has really allowed us to tighten up the compliance side of that and doing the risk assessment afterward.
Absolutely. I can talk about the risk assessment from an engineer's perspective, right? So when customers are going through their risk assessment, it's not only that the customer gets a peace of mind about identity and permissions management, right? We also get a peace of mind from the customers as well as what they're expecting out of their product, right? And it's really an exchange of ideas. It's really, really healthy. And we have developed some like really nice features because of our interactions with customers through our risk assessment. It's one of the reasons why we have such a great relationship with our customers, because really security is a two-way street. You give me ideas, I give you ideas. It's something that is growing and something that we're always open to new ideas and new implementations and new perspectives. So those are like some of the highlights of my time at Cloudnox are during those risk assessments with certain customers. We do have another question. Did the risk assessment results? Okay, I cannot read. Okay, did the risk assessment results making it easy to budget for the product, and would you recommend others to do it? Okay, so to rephrase, the risk assessment results make it easy to budget for the product and recommend others.
Yes, absolutely. I think it validated that Cloudnox was a great benefit to at least our infrastructure. And that does make it easier to budget for security tools when you can actually prove that it's providing a valid service. And even touching on what Guru said, not just from a budgeting standpoint, but the vendor relationship, being able to make those feature requests. One of the things that did come out of the assessment was, hey, we'd really like to see it in this format. We want to see it delivered in this way. And Cloudnox takes our input to heart, and they actually made several changes within the product to allow what we needed to come out of the product. And again, that goes back to if you can prove it to your other departments that this is a valid business tool, budgeting becomes much, much easier.
Yeah, not much I can add to that. Perfectly said.
Okay. And we have another question, guys. So questions starting to pour in. Great job, guys. So the question is, what percentage of your selected security control suite is fully or even partially covered by Cloudnox?
So our infrastructure is, we use 2 public cloud service providers, and we use VMware on-premise. Currently, we are using Cloudnox for AWS and VMware. It could be extended to our other cloud service providers because Cloudnox has the capability of GCP as well as Azure. So as we start to ramp up using Azure, we will implement Cloudnox there as well.
Yeah, and as Joshua stated, we also support Azure and GCP in addition to AWS and vCenter. So it's identity across our cloud platforms, and it gives you it really gives you a 10,000-foot overview of what's going on across your cloud infrastructure. So yeah, that I do not see any more questions. Again, if you guys have any more questions, it's Guru at cloudnox.io. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I'll be happy to forward any questions you have for John and Joshua to them. And also, Joshua highlighted the SolarWinds breach during one of the answers to one of my questions. If you want to read our write-up on the SolarWinds breach and any other topic that we have been talking about with regards to security and identity permissions management, you can go to www.cloudnox.io. We have a bunch of articles there written by some of our employees, and they really provide insight on what we are doing with respect to permissions management and what are the best practices in the field, and also what our customers should be doing about it. So this has been great. John and Joshua, again, thank you so much for joining us. You guys have been great to us, and hopefully Cloudnox will continue to serve you guys and your needs.
Yeah, thank you, Guru.
Thanks, Guru.
All right, guys. So this is Guru again, signing off.